Selected parts from book One Life is Not Enough, written by Shri K. Natwar Singh. Part 5. I completed my civil services examination on 16th October 1952 and then immediately left for Cambridge University. It was the pre-jet age and it took me 24 hours to reach London. We stopped at Karachi, Basra, Cairo, Rome, Zurich and Paris before finally arriving. It was my first trip abroad and my return ticket cost rupees 2200. From London, I took a train to Cambridge. I hailed a cab and asked the driver to drop me at Corpus Christi College. Corpus was founded in 1352 and was celebrating its 600th anniversary. At Corpus, I was greeted in a friendly manner by the hall porter. My name is Albert. Welcome, sir. How is your brother Bhagat Singh? My room was on staircase P in the old court which had been built in the early part of the 15th century. I soon acquired a gown which all students were required to wear throughout the day and a second-hand bicycle for a princely 12 shillings. Although I had a first-class degree in history from one of India's leading colleges, I was admitted as an undergraduate to Corpus Christi College. The master of the college then was Sir George Thomson, who had been awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1937. My history tutor was John Roach. When I took my first tutorial to him, he said, "You will have to do better than this." By the third tutorial, Roach said that there was some hope for me. The lectures and bi-weekly tutorials left me much time to do as I pleased. Among my other history teachers were Sir Herbert Butterfield, Sir G.P. Elton and J.H. Bury. The great Whig historian George Trevelyan, who had just retired and lived in an ugly house on Trumpington Street, was admired and respected. In the middle of the term, the Prime Minister of Ceylon, Dudley Senanayake, who had been at Corpus Christi in the 1920s, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Khwaja Nazimuddin, as well as C.D. Deshmukh, representing Nehru, had come to the college. It could be said the governance of the subcontinent lay in the hands of Cambridge alumni. At the end of term, I got a job in the local post office for £9 a week to help the establishment sort out the Christmas mail. However, I did not join the post office but made my maiden trip to Europe, visiting Holland, Belgium and West Germany. When I returned to college, a telegram was waiting for me asking me to appear for an interview at the Union Public Service Commission, that is UPSC office in Dholpur House in Delhi on 9th January 1953. A fellow passenger on the flight to Delhi was V.K. Krishnamenon, then High Commissioner of India to the United Kingdom. I introduced myself. He was pleasant and even gave me a crash course for my forthcoming interview. I was to encounter him a decade later in New York when he was leading the Indian delegation to the United Nations. By the time he had succeeded in becoming the most disliked Indian in the United States. On the appointed day, wearing my best suit, I reached Dholpur House at 10 a.m. in my brother's Jaguar. I was called in for the interview at around 11 a.m. 8 gentlemen sat around a semicircular table. At the center sat the chairman R. N. Banerjee, ICS, then the Home Secretary. I sat opposite the chairman, my heart pounding. The interview commenced with a loaded question. In your application, you only mentioned the IAS and IFS and not the other services. Are you so sure of getting into either of the two? I answered, Sir, I am not sure, but I am confident. I was then asked what my plans were if I did not qualify. I told them I would finish my tripos at Cambridge and then look for a job. The next question, man is born free but is everywhere in chains. Who said this? My reply, Rousseau, sir. Then, in your view, is man in chains? I said, No, sir, I am not in chains. I had been warned that at some point a trap question would be asked. Sure enough, the trap was laid with finesse. I was asked if I had read a particular book which I had not. In 9 cases out of 10, the temptation would have been to bluff and say yes, but an affirmative answer would have done me in. But I did not get intimidated and negotiated the trap with some sang-froid. The next question was deceptively easy. What are the 3 events in the last 12 months that have made an impact on you? Can I, sir, be given a minute or two to think before answering? This, I was later told, had made a favorable impression on the selection board. The ordeal of the interview over, I proceeded to Bharatpur. One night, we were about to sit down for dinner when my elder brother Bhagwat Singh switched on the radio to hear the 9 p.m. news. Halfway through, the announcer started reading out the names of those who had been selected for the IAS and IFS. My name was amongst them, the first Rajasthani in the country to qualify for the Indian Administrative Service and the Indian Foreign Service. 14th April 1953, a new beginning, a new adventure, a new promise. All probationers, 7 from the IFS and 32 from the IAS, reported at Metcalfe House for our 6-month training. The IFS probationers were told that Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru would meet each of us individually. The meeting with the Prime Minister was a formal affair. We arrived at gate number 2 of South Block and were taken into the room of the personal secretary to the Prime Minister. Although I had met Pandit Nehru a few times at Teen Murti House when his sister Krishna Huti Singh was in Delhi, her sons Harsh and Ajit were close friends of mine, I was decidedly nervous. As I stepped into the room, the Prime Minister got up from his chair and shook my hand. Over the next few minutes, he asked me about my home, family, etc. He was, I later realized, giving me a chance to calm my nerves. Now, let's get down to business, he announced after a while. क्या हमें चीन से कोई खतरा है? Does China pose a danger to us? जी, है भी और नहीं भी है. Yes and no. Because our next door neighbor is our best friend and worst enemy, was my audacious reply. मुझे चाणक्य नीति सिखा रहे हो क्या? You are teaching me Chanakya's politics? The great man said, half in jest. The next few questions related to South Africa and the second 5-year plan. At the end of the interaction, to my utter amazement, he saw me off at the door. It was the supreme gesture of good manners and magnanimous grace by a statesman of world stature. All 39 of us probationers were eligible bachelors and much in demand. I distinctly remember a Rashtrapati Bhavan car arriving to take an IFS probationer to meet the President, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He ended up marrying the President's granddaughter. In the first week of August, the IAS and IFS probationers were sent on a tour of Kashmir. We called on the Chief Minister Sheikh Abdullah at his Srinagar residence, which overlooked the Dal Lake. In the past few months, he had not been listening to Jawaharlal Nehru and refused to come to Delhi. Nehru had unnecessarily given him a very long rope. All of us, while in Srinagar, felt uneasy. 2 flags flew over the Chief Minister's house and other buildings, the Indian tricolor and the Kashmir flag. In the early September, the IFS probationers sailed for London, 4 headed to Cambridge, 1 to Oxford, and 1 to the Arabic school in Shamlan, Lebanon, and 1 to Harvard. Hence, I was back in Corpus Christi College after nearly 10 months. My status had changed. I was not an undergraduate nor a postgraduate. All that I was required to do was to study Chinese. The college had arranged for a Chinese tutor to induce me to take some interest in learning the language, the most difficult language that exists. Thrice a week, I went to Mr. Tang's home for an hour. He was a Buddhist with a controlled disdain for the communist regime in China. We never talked politics. I was a conscientious pupil. He tried, I tried, but without success. It was during this period that I became friends with E.M. Forster. I had first seen him in the winter of 1952 at a meeting of the Tagore Society in Cambridge. By that time, Forster had become something of a cult figure. His rooms in King's College were a literary pilgrimage for many young men and women from all over the world, particularly from India. But friendship, not fame, was his priority. He was aware of the influence his writings had on a vast number of people all over the English speaking world. He was, at the time, among the best known British novelists in the world. Fame came to him, he did not seek it. He felt uneasy with fame. He was almost 50 years older than me and at the peak of his career. He lent me several books, including J.R. Ackley's Hindu Holiday, Christopher Isherwood's Lions and Shadows, and Goldsworthy Lowell's The Greek View of Life. While at Cambridge, I read most of Forster's books as well as his essay, What I Believe, included in Two Cheers for Democracy, published in the year 1939. His most well-known sentence was, I hate the idea of causes, and if I had to choose between betraying my country and betraying my friend, I hope I should have the guts to betray my country. Here I differed with Forster. I believe that it is entirely possible to love one's country as well as one's friend. The conflict of loyalties can be surmounted without damaging either. But it was his passion for friendship and personal relationships which greatly appealed to me. His two-word epigram, Only Connect, had a profound and lasting influence on me. It is largely to him that I owe such awakening as has befallen on me. In 1954, I remember asking Forster if he would agree to a passage to India being made into a film. He said, no, I would have no control over its production. As an exception, in 1960, he allowed Santa Rama Rao to write a script for a stage production. Several years after Forster's death, David Lean produced the film. Forster would have been appalled. If I had not met Forster, I would never have known Ahmed Ali, the author of Twilight in Delhi, R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, Narayan Menon, Mulk Raj Anand, and Santa Rama Rao. Each of them looked at life differently, but their destination was the same: to live decently on their own terms. Knowing them, reading them, meeting them was not only a pleasure, it was something more. These remarkable people certainly saved me from a sordid vision of life and also shielded me from lugubrious formality. I made two other friends at Cambridge, John Wygie and Brian Abel Smith at Clare College. Both were from the top drawer, earning firsts in academics. Brian became professor of social administration at the London School of Economics. John Wesley was undoubtedly among the most brilliant and witty men I have ever known. He was a member of the Labour Party for many years, but then became disenchanted by it. In 1976, he became a life peer. His last book, The Squandered Peace, The World Between 1945 and 1975, provides a grim picture of the post-1945 international scene. He was prophetic about the decline of the United Nations. My favorite Wesley book is In Breach of Promise. It is a collective portrait of 5 exceptionally talented British politicians. John Wesley died within a year of the book's publication in 1984, aged 55. In the biography of his friend Goldsworthy Lewis Dickinson, Forster wrote what I consider the most entrancing summing up of why Cambridge is so special and unique. It is an extension of his favorite slogan, Only Connect. As Cambridge filled up with friends, it acquired a magic quality. Body and spirit, reason and emotion, work and play, architecture and scenery, laughter and seriousness, life and art, these pairs, which are elsewhere contrasted, were fused into one. People and books reinforced one another, intelligence joined hands with affection, speculation became passion, and discussion was made profound by affection. At the end of our stay in Cambridge, we spent 6 weeks at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London. Besides us, there were professionals from Pakistan, Malaya, Ceylon, and Hong Kong. Several of them became foreign ministers of their countries. The course was instructive in some ways and disappointing in others. Most of the senior officials were still living in the past and were not quite reconciled to the independence of India, Pakistan, and Ceylon. The only worthwhile lecture was by Harold Nicholson, whose book Diplomacy is a classic. Thank you for listening. Now some word power. It could be said the governance of the subcontinent lay in the hands of Cambridge alumni. Alumni, A-L-U-M-N-I. Alumni means a graduate or former student of a particular school, college, or university. But I did not get intimidated and negotiated the trap with some sang-froid. S-A-N-G-F-R-O-I-D. Sang-froid means composure or coolness shown in danger or under trying circumstances. Sang-froid means level-headed. जी है भी और नहीं भी है, yes and no, because our next door neighbor is our best friend and worst enemy, was my audacious reply. Audacious means daring, bold. The conflict of loyalties can be surmounted without damaging either. Surmount, S-U-R-M-O-U-N-T. Surmount means overcome a difficulty or obstacle. At the end of the interview, to my utter amazement, he saw me off at the door. It was the supreme gesture of good manners and magnanimous grace by a statesman of world stature. Magnanimous means generous, benevolent. The college had arranged for a Chinese tutor to induce me to take some interest in learning the language. Induce, induce, induce means persuade, convince. He was a Buddhist with a controlled disdain for the communist regime in China. Disdain, D-I-S-D-A-I-N, disdain means contempt, scorn, the feeling of not liking someone or something that they do not deserve your interest or respect. I was a conscientious pupil. He tried, I tried, but without success. Conscientious, C-O-N-S-C-I-E-N-T-I-O-S. Conscientious means diligent, industrious, wishing to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly. His two-word epigram, "Only Connect," had a profound and lasting influence on me. Epigram, E-P-I-G-R-A-M, epigram, a saying or remark expressing an idea in a clever and amusing way. Epigram is a quip, witticism. For example, I can resist everything except temptation. After Forster's death, David Lean produced the film. Forster would have been appalled. A-P-P-A-L-L, appall means to cause to feel fear, shock or disgust. These remarkable people certainly saved me from a sordid vision of life and also shielded me from lugubrious formality. Sordid, S-O-R-D-I-D, sordid means dirty and unpleasant. Lugubrious, L-U-G-U-B-R-A-O-S, lugubrious means looking or sounding sad, gloomy and dismal. I made two other friends at Cambridge, John Vazey at Queen's and Brian Abel Smith at Clare College. Both were from the top drawer. Top drawer means of very high quality. Thank you very much.